Why can't she just have an affair with the gardener like any normal person? I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. I'm getting secondhand embarrassment watching it. Hey everyone, welcome and thank you for joining me for another video. Today, we're going to be returning to the world of Sex and the City. If you haven't seen them yet, I've done an entire series on some of the relationships in Sex and the City, and I will link that playlist below so you can go watch those other episodes if you haven't seen them yet. But I did Carrie and Big, Charlotte and Harry, Samantha and Smith, and Miranda and Steve. Now, I want to dive into Carrie's relationship with Aidan, particularly in light of this new spin-off and Just Like That, and their sort of revival. And if you're anything like me, you've been watching and Just Like That almost like it's some sort of horror movie. No, no, Carrie, no. I can't watch. Don't go to Virginia. It's been a little bit of an interesting ride. So I thought, why not take this opportunity to return and look at Carrie's relationship with Aidan and how did we get here? But first, if you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Tanya and I am a family lawyer and mediator. And on this channel, I talk about all things related to relationships, everything from dating to divorce. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you know what to do. For the purposes of today's video, I'm going to be really focusing on Carrie's approach to love and her views on relationships, because her relationship with Aidan stands in contrast to her relationship with Big, but in a lot of ways they kind of intertwine on many occasions, which I'm sure if you've seen the series and the movies, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to look at why Carrie was so reluctant to commit to Aidan, why she cheated on him, why she then cheated on Big with him, and why she's now chasing after him. So the first thing that I'd like to look at is Carrie's view on love. In my opinion, Carrie is a love addict. And by that, I mean she displays many characteristics that we associate with somebody who has a substance abuse problem. But her substance abuse problem is actually love, or more specifically, chasing after those highs that you get when you are falling in love, what we might associate with what we call the honeymoon phase. There is some research that supports the idea that love, or that sort of euphoria feeling that we associate with those initial phases of love, do affect our brain in similar ways to certain substances that are also addictive. And so the idea is that potentially people could become addicted to those feel-good chemicals. This is something that I have actually witnessed in practice, and a theory that I have about love and toxic relationship patterns. And I intend to do a whole other video deep diving into that topic in future. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to say that Carrie is addicted to those feel-good hormones, the highs of falling in love, the excitement of early romance. And when you look at her behavior through that lens, it suddenly becomes clear why she does the things that she does and why she has so much trouble with some of her relationships. I touched on this a little bit in the episode that I did about Carrie and Big, although in that episode I did probably focus a lot more on Big's behavior, but I did highlight that Carrie was almost like a masochist, and that is something that she herself says in one of the episodes, that she keeps going back despite the fact that Big keeps hurting her. When you look at Carrie as a character, you can also see that she has other addictive behaviors, one of which, of course, is her smoking, which is something that becomes an issue in her relationship with Aidan. And I'll come back to that in a moment. But you can also see it with her shopping. On multiple occasions, her love of shopping, and particularly her love of expensive designer footwear, is portrayed as a little bit of an addiction. She herself refers to it as having a substance abuse problem. There's the whole, she spent $40,000 on shoes but couldn't afford to buy her apartment. So it's clear that Carrie as a character has a tendency to chase certain highs, and so it's no wonder that it also manifests in her chasing after that high So Carrie and Aidan first meet in season 3 of the original series. By this point, Big has already married Natasha. The timing of it is noteworthy because Carrie, as a love addict, her substance of choice at that time had been Big, but now Big is married to another woman. So Carrie needs to find another source of love. And in comes Aidan. She meets him at his furniture store, and right away she says that there's a spark, there's chemistry, which of course is part of the allure for Carrie. She needs that. We've heard her discuss it before or subsequently. She talks about butterflies. She refers to the Zaza Zoo. That's her pattern. So she meets Aidan, and through this interaction, she buys a chair she doesn't really like. It's not really her style, but she buys it because there's just so much chemistry between them. Again, that part of her pattern of behavior, she makes all kinds of impulsive decisions or decisions that are not even really good for her because of feelings, because she's caught a vibe. Anyway, she buys this chair. Aidan ends up asking her out. He brings up this problem of her smoking. He says he can't be with somebody who smokes. Immediately, she downplays the smoking, trying to say, oh, well, I'm not really that much of a smoker. No, you probably have got the wrong idea. And then she immediately tries to quit smoking unsuccessfully. And Aidan later catches her crouched on the side of the road or something, picking up a cigarette from the floor that she had dropped. And this, to me, and that whole scene was a little bit foreshadowing, because Carrie's inability to quit her smoking addiction is very much going to be in parallel to Carrie's inability to quit her big addiction. So pretty soon after Carrie and Aidan start dating, Carrie runs into Big and Natasha at some furniture expo sort of thing. And this is the beginning of her reigniting her relationship with Big, or should we say the beginning of the affair, because then Big reaches out to her. I discussed that in the Big and Carrie episode in more detail. But essentially what has happened here is that Carrie is once again chasing that feeling of being in love, because at this point her relationship with Aidan has settled into a more calm and secure relationship. They spend a lot of time just hanging out, getting takeaway, or not really going out a lot. And this is another classic pattern that we see with Carrie. She gets bored easily because once the highs of falling in love have subsided, which by the way is perfectly normal in a healthy relationship, she is then chasing after the next high. She cannot just settle into a secure attachment. This is exactly what happens with Big. So as soon as Big re-enters the picture, he knows how to pull on her strings. He knows how to push her buttons. It's exactly what he does. They end up having an affair because she is incapable of making good decisions when she is chasing after the high. And this is sort of typical of somebody who does have substance abuse issues, because we see that all the time. They will continue to do things that are objectively harmful to them for the purposes of chasing their addiction. So I won't go into the whole Carrie and Big affair because, again, you can go watch the Carrie and Big episode for more details on that. But this ends the relationship with Aidan. I believe she tells Aidan that she has had an affair. So that's sort of the first phase of their relationship. The second phase is when they reconnect again through Steve, when Steve opens his bar. Carrie sees Aidan and realizes that there are still feelings there. And again, Carrie is very impulsive when it comes to feelings. So she pursues reconnecting with Aidan, trying to get him to meet up. She's trying to apologize. He, of course, is still very hurt by the fact that she cheated on him, but eventually they sort of reconnect and he agrees to try again. But what becomes clear in this second phase of the relationship is that Carrie's desire to reconnect with Aidan was not really driven by her objectively believing that she and Aidan have a good relationship. It was entirely driven by her, once again, chasing the highs of being in love. At this point in the Carrie and Big story, Big has moved to Napa, so he is no longer really in the orbit, so Carrie needs another source to continue to feed her addiction. So when she does see Aidan and she feels those feelings again, she just knows that she needs to chase after that. She isn't really thinking clearly or rationally and wanting to commit to Aidan, because what happens in the next phase of their relationship is Carrie's inability or unwillingness to settle down with Aidan when she realizes that Aidan wants to propose to her. She also has a real inability to allow Aidan into her life in a real way. She feels as though when he moves in, he's just invading her space. She's very uncomfortable. So all of this is the behavior of somebody who isn't truly in the relationship for the right reason. Now, Aidan himself is not a perfect person or a perfect character. And I think one of the things in this relationship that he does that I feel is not very healthy is that he constantly seems to try to change Carrie. He can't seem to accept Carrie for who she is and is always wanting to try to mold her into the type of woman that he actually wants. And the thing about Carrie and Aidan is that as much as I think Aidan is overall a pretty good guy, and certainly significantly better than Big and pretty much any other man that she was involved with in the series, I don't think that he and Carrie were a good match. I think that their values didn't align. I think that their lifestyles didn't align. I think that the things that they wanted in their future didn't align. And you can see that in hindsight once you see where Aidan ends up. But at this moment in time, for whatever reason, Aidan has decided that he loves Carrie and he can kind of fix the little details that don't really align with what he likes or what he wants and envisions for his life. And this tends to lead to trouble. And we see it play out, for example, wanting her to quit smoking, but also we see it with the country house and wanting her to come out to the country house because that's important to him. But Carrie is not a country girl. Carrie is a city girl. She barely wants to go to Brooklyn to visit Miranda, let alone go live in the country. So that's just one example of Aidan not being able to truly see Carrie for who she is and accept her. Now, as an aside, I've heard a lot of people say that that's why Big was better because he accepted Carrie for who she was. And I think that that's slightly misguided because while I agree that Aidan at many times tried to change Carrie, and even when we saw him trying to change her apartment, it was almost like a metaphor for changing who she was. Understand that Big not really wanting to change Carrie wasn't necessarily a positive thing just because it stood in contrast to Aidan wanting to change Carrie. Because remember, Big is a narcissist. He doesn't care. And that's the thing. The reason he doesn't try to change Carrie is because he doesn't care. He doesn't care enough about her as an individual and as a person. He only cares about what he can get from her and how she can feed his ego. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I just wanted to highlight that because I don't think that it's necessarily a good thing that Big didn't seem to care what Carrie did. So coming back to Carrie and Aidan, the second phase of their relationship. So Aidan has purchased her apartment and I believe the apartment next door, and his plan is to renovate and create a bigger apartment for them. In the meantime, he's bought an engagement ring, which was a whole other thing. He bought the quote unquote wrong ring. Buying the wrong ring is another symbolism of him not really wanting to accept who Carrie was and instead want to sort of overlay his views and his preferences in this relationship. And as Samantha says,
wrong ring, wrong guy.
So ultimately, Carrie decides that she can't marry this man. And the truth is that I do agree with that. I do not think that those two being married would have been a good idea. But from Carrie's perspective, the reason that she couldn't marry him was because What she had been seeking was the highs of being in love, and those always subside. In healthy relationships, you form a bond and an attachment, and you move into a more safe, secure place. But Carrie is unable to make that shift. She always needs the highs, but you can't have the highs without the lows. And this is why she constantly chases after either inappropriate men or inappropriate relationships because she catches vibes. We see her do it with Alexander Petrovsky. We see her do it with that writer, Berger. And of course, the biggest examples are both Aidan and Big. Because what happens in the movies, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but what happens is it becomes a little bit boring, a little bit mundane. And then she has that trip to Abu Dhabi with the girls, runs into Aidan, they have dinner, she kisses him. Again, chasing the highs, chasing the feelings of being in love, or what she associates as feelings of being in love, but really it's just those chemicals in her brain that she is chasing. She wasn't getting them with Big at that point, and then when she ran into Aidan, that happened. And again, I reiterate that it was not a good sign that when she told Big, he didn't seem to really care that much, and his reaction was to buy her a ring. But this goes back to my theory that I never believed Big had been truly faithful to Carrie throughout their relationship. Again, I'm not going to go into that because I already discussed it, but that's just another example of why I feel that way. So let's move on then to the current spin-off of And Just Like That, where Big has died at this point. And for a little while, I had some hope that Carrie would finally be able to be a woman on her own and discover who she could be in the absence of men, in the absence of a romantic relationship or a love interest. Like in some ways, Big's death would be a healing and transformative experience for her. I was sorely mistaken about that because what happens? Aidan re-enters the picture. Now at this point, Carrie had held on to her original apartment. I believe there was a point in time where she sold it and then she repurchased it. The point is, she is now living in that original apartment, the one that Aidan had been renovating, the one that he had originally purchased that she had had to purchase back from him, the one where there was a lot of history there for them. And when she and Aidan reconnect, this becomes an issue for him. He does not feel comfortable going back to that apartment because it brings back those old traumas, let's say, and it reminds him of all the hurt. So what does she do? She sells her apartment and then she buys this actually quite beautiful property. I don't even know if the townhouse, apartment, whatever you want to call it. It's stunning. Okay, so actually I'm not mad that she sold that old apartment because frankly, at her grown age and with her money, like what is she doing, right? So that property that she buys, I was very happy until this most recent season of And Just Like That, where she continues to treat this property as her and Aidan's property. Now, I don't know the details, but I don't seem to recall there being any indication that Aidan purchased this property or contributed to the purchase of this property in any way. At least that's my feeling. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I feel like she bought this property for them. And she even was thinking that his children could come and stay. So she was just going full steam ahead. Of course, we see at the end of the last season of And Just Like That, Aidan has this issue with one of his sons, and he says to Carrie that can't be in this relationship with her, at least not in terms of his physically being away from Virginia, which is where he is living and where his children live. So he cannot keep coming up to New York because he needs to be there for his son. So for some reason, Carrie decides that she's going to wait for him. She'll put her life on hold while he deals with his family issues, and hopefully at some point, maybe 5 years from now, when things settle down, they can be together again. And this is just Carrie's love addiction re-manifesting because, again, Big has passed now, so he's gone for good, and she no longer has a source of drama and a source of those highs. So once again, she turns to the next best thing, which has always been Aidan, to reignite those feelings and again, chasing that high. And in some ways, they're being separated, and her being okay with that is again her seeking out the drama. And that probably feels a lot more comfortable for Carrie than settling down into a comfortable and safe and stable relationship. The problem that I have is the way that it impacts on her life. She's holding off on buying furniture, or she's seeking his opinion on furniture when he doesn't even live there and won't be spending time there for years. So why is it that with all of her money, aka Big's money, we love that for her, by the way, why can't she just buy whatever furniture she wants? It's giving desperate. It's frankly embarrassing. I'm getting secondhand embarrassment watching it. And the most recent episode, actually the most recent episode that I've seen, because I believe at the time of filming this, they have released episode 5 of the current season, but I haven't seen it yet. So I've finished watching episode 4, where Carrie travels to Virginia. That was the moment where I thought, we have to talk about this. Carrie is with her, is it publicist? And she's telling her that she has all these opportunities for Carrie to go and speak or do appearances. Some of them are pretty impressive, and she constantly turns them down. But the one that she takes, the one that sparks her interest, happens to be in Virginia. And why does she take it? Because of Aidan. And this is the problem that I have with this part of their relationship. Carrie is making too many compromises and too many changes in her life to accommodate Aidan, when Aidan is very much not really in the picture. He has other things going on in his life. And as far as I'm concerned, Carrie should really let that man go. He is not adding any value to her life, but she can't seem to just exist without a man and without chasing those feelings of love. So she travels to Virginia. She gets a front row seat to all of the drama in Aidan's life, which I'm not going to go into detail, but essentially his youngest son is, let's say, troubled. Very, very troubled. She appreciates why Aidan needs to be there. That's great, except instead of having a what I would consider normal and healthy reaction, which is to end the relationship with him, instead she gives him a key to their place, which again bothers me because why is it his place? It shouldn't be their place. It should just be her place. Because why is she involving this man in her life now? Why can't she just have an affair with the gardener like any normal person in her situation? So to sum up my feelings about Carrie and Aidan's relationship, I really believe that while I know that some people thought Carrie should have married Aidan because he was a good guy and he was stable and he loved her and he wanted to commit to her and build a life with her and whatever. Personally, I think that they were really poorly matched from the beginning. And I think that Carrie's love addiction was always going to be a problem for her in any relationship, but particularly in this relationship, as we saw, because her pattern is constantly to seek out drama, to seek out the high of falling in love, of being infatuated, and she has real difficulty with secure attachment and healthy relationship dynamics. She cannot settle into a stable, comfortable relationship, which is clearly what Aidan was seeking and would have wanted, but this was something that was never going to be possible for Carrie because of this problem that she had with secure attachment and also her propensity towards addiction and her chasing the feelings of falling in love. So that's sort of my overview on Carrie and Aidan's relationship, at least so far. I'm curious to see what happens next. Even though I hate watching this new series, it's like I can't look away. But there you go. You guys let me know what you think. I always love to hear from you in the comments below. Please make sure you check out one of these other videos, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.